If you're looking to build an AI business today in 2025 going into 2026, and who knows, you might be watching this in 2027, here's something you need to know. Every founder thinks what they're really doing when building an AI business is disrupting the $300 billion SaaS industry. But that's actually not it. AI businesses today, AI founders today are going after disrupting the $6 trillion labor market, the $6 trillion knowledge worker market. Back in 2011, Mark Andreessen famously said, software is eating the world. But today, AI is eating labor. AI is eating knowledge workers. So in this episode, I'm gonna give you 10 battle-hardened AI business ideas that's going after this $1 trillion knowledge worker industry. And I'm not just gonna give you the ideas, I'm actually gonna walk you through how I came up with them and how I developed them. So it is my sincere hope that you actually go and build one of these ideas and build a really successful company, or you use the principles that I teach you inside of this video to develop your own idea going after this very specific market that not enough people are thinking about, and you can accelerate your path to being a successful founder in this incredible time of building AI companies. Now here's the thing, I've started and scaled and exited my last SaaS company. I've been in the SaaS industry for 20 years. In fact, Andreessen Horowitz was a Series B investor in my last company, and then I exited it. Since then, I'm now scaling a services business, a knowledge work business, and I'm scaling an AI business. So I'm starting to see the patterns that exist between these two worlds. They're all converging. I've learned that there's an actual art and science to successful business ideas. There's a method to developing the right business ideas and pursuing them. So in this episode, I'm gonna walk you through those 10 business ideas that I've developed. I'm gonna show you the framework for it. And by the way, this methodology, this process that I'm gonna be teaching you inside of this video and the 10 ideas, I've outlined all of it in my AI ideas checklist. Inside of this checklist, I actually teach you how to implement all the details of this framework that I'm gonna be using to develop these 10 ideas. So if you want a copy of that checklist, just put in the comments below, give me the checklist, and I'll make sure that I give you a link to it so you can access it on demand. Now, I know that there's so many YouTube videos that are just giving you these incredible ideas, and everyone's just thinking, if these ideas are so great, why are you not building it? How did you come up with it? Is it any good? Well, what I'm gonna walk you through is exactly how I came up with these ideas, and then I'm gonna show you the actual ideas. The first step in the development of effective business ideas is understanding what makes for a great idea and what makes for a terrible idea. What makes for a successful business and what makes for an unsuccessful business, which by the way, 99% of ideas fail. So this is how I always think about it. This is my lens on thinking about successful business ideas. What makes a great idea is 3 key things. First, you need to be going after a very, very effective market, and I'll explain what that is. Then you need a product that's 10 times better than anything else in the market. And finally, you need a go-to-market where you can actually take that product to that target market. You can actually reach that target market so that they discover you and then buy from you. In the middle of these 3 forces is what makes for a great business idea. If you're not going after a market that actually needs your product, then you're going to fail. If you're building a product that's not 10 times better than what's already out there for that market, you're going to fail. If you don't have go-to-market and you can't reach that target market, then they'll never find out about you and you're going to fail. So whenever I'm looking at developing ideas, the first thing I really try to figure out is, what's the market? What am I gonna go solve? Ideas are a dime a dozen. Problems and markets are what second-time founders always focus on. And that's what I did after I sold Kader and then started to develop new businesses. And that's what I do when I work with founders to help them develop their businesses and scale. Now, let's dig into step number 2, really dig into what makes for a great market. I covered this a little bit, but this is another set of forces that come together to create for effective markets worth going after. Great markets have 3 things in common. First, you actually have a market where they have an urgent and important problem. A common thing that comes up whenever investors are evaluating ideas is they ask, is this a vitamin or a painkiller? Is this a nice to have or a must have? And the way I like to think about it, the lens that I look at it, whenever I'm talking to a founder and they're pitching me on an idea, is I always ask, what is the problem you're solving? Is it urgent and is it actually important? Because guess what? No matter how good a problem is and whether it exists or not, there's lots of problems in each other's lives. I have problems and you have problems that are not worth solving. But the top 3 problems, the urgent and important problems where things are going to go terribly wrong if I don't fix it, my life is not going to be okay, well, in that case, that's an urgent and important problem. So that's the first piece of what makes for a great market. You need a market that has an urgent and important problem. The second thing that makes for a great market is they have to be early adopters. If you go after a very traditional market that doesn't want to try new technology, no matter how much they are talking about AI, but they're not really implementing it, they're not going to buy your AI product. So you have to make sure the market you're choosing has the urgent and important problem and is willing to be an early adopter in whatever you're going to try to sell them. Otherwise, you're just gonna die in obscurity. And the final thing, and this is a tough one, is they need to have budget. You cannot make a business and earn money selling to broke people. So if they don't have budget for solving the urgent, important problem, and they don't actually have an early adopter mindset, then you don't have a really great market. So whenever I'm developing these ideas, and I've done so many videos on developing ideas, this is the framework that I always follow. Do they have an urgent and important problem? Do they have budget to solve this problem? And are they actually an early adopter? Meaning, are they willing to test out my new AI technology? And let's be honest, it's all new. AI is very experimental. Foundational models are getting better every day, but it's still very experimental, which means that they have to have an early adopter mindset. Otherwise, they're not gonna trust you in actually solving their urgent and important problem. So that's what makes for a great market. Now, in order to develop these 10 ideas that I'm going to show you, I actually dug into a very specific market. My target market that I'm gonna walk you through the 10 ideas around that I've developed in this specific market is targeting CFOs. And by the way, the more specific the market you're going after, the more effective you're going to be. And also, you kind of need to know the market. If you're choosing a market that you've never even talked to a single human in, then you probably shouldn't go after that market. You're more likely to fail. The reason I chose CFOs was just the other day, I was getting dinner with an old friend. That old friend happens to be a CFO and now CEO at a public company. But we were talking about all the big trends that are happening with CFOs. And I'm like, you know what? There's a huge market with a real urgent, important problem here. I think I want to solve for it. And I already know him and I know other CFOs that are in this market. But that wasn't enough. I wanted to dig into it even more. I want to make sure that I'm targeting CFOs with a real urgent and important problem and an early adopter mindset, which is why I said I want to target CFOs at mid-cap public companies, and not just mid-cap public companies, but they're running a traditional SaaS business. You're already starting to see this. They have an urgent, important problem. These CFOs are running public companies in mid-cap, which means that they're not the number one players in their space, and they're about to get disrupted by AI-first companies. So they're starting to think about, where do we invest? What do we cut? How do we survive? How do we win? That's an urgent, important problem, which means there are lots of problems that I can solve for that CFO. So let's go back to step number 2. In step number 2, I said you have to have an urgent and important problem, they have an early adopter mindset, and they have to have budget. So let's do the litmus test for CFOs in traditional SaaS companies that are mid-cap, that are public. Do they have an urgent, important problem? Yes, they do. They need to figure out how to survive. They need to figure out how to get profitable. They need to figure out how to show growth. They need to figure out all of these things. Do they have an early adopter mindset? That's why I picked tech companies. Tech companies tend to be early adopters because they're in technology. They get it. And lastly, do they have budget? This is why I specifically chose CFOs. They control the budget for the entire organization. Could they find a little bit of money to invest in future-proofing their business when it's top of mind for them in every earnings call? Absolutely. It checks off all my criteria for a great market, and that's why I'm going to double down on them. Now, when you're developing the ideas for your target market, remember, market first, then you want to figure out, well, what are their urgent and important problems? Now, immediately you may think of one, but that may not be urgent and important, which is why the next step in the process that I follow is I actually dig into defining exactly what my target market looks like. So in this case, I'm going after CFOs and mid-cap public tech companies. I'm going after the public technology sector. They're CFOs or VPs of finance. They have 500 to 5,000 employees, 500 million to 10 million market cap. They're in North America because that's just where I want to focus. And it actually builds out some example users. By the way, all of these pieces that I'm going to be showing you is actually built out using a custom GPT that we have. This custom GPT, I call it the Unstoppable Ideas Generator, is included inside of my AI and SaaS business checklist. So make sure you grab a copy of that, because then you can use this tool to do your own research that I'm gonna be showing you as well. Just put it in the comments below, give me the checklist, and we'll send you the link to it. So now that I have my target market dialed in, and I'm fairly certain that, hey, there's an urgent important problem over here, there's an impending doom over here, these folks have budget, they are early adopters, let's now figure out what ideas we can actually generate for this target market. Now, remember, the big mantra that I follow whenever I'm thinking about ideas and starting new businesses is problems before ideas. Meaning ideas are a dime a dozen, but urgent and important problems, if you can align to those, then the ideas are gonna be that much better. So the trick that I use, and the trick that the Unstoppable Ideas Generator uses, is it actually figures out the jobs to be done framework. The jobs to be done is a framework that's used in product research and user research and even marketing research. It's what helps you understand what the day in the life of your ideal customer looks like. So what the tool does is it does the research for me on, okay, for this type of ICP, for this type of CFO in a mid-cap company that's a public company, what's their jobs to be done? And not only does it do that, there's a couple of things that makes for an even better idea and an even better problem. The two factors that I really look at is what is the pain level, 1 to 5, for this job that they have to do? How often do they have to do it? Meaning, if it's a once a year thing, then it's not gonna be urgent and important. Maybe it will be, but it's harder. But it's an everyday thing, or an every quarter thing, or an every month thing, then the frequency is higher for that problem, so they're more likely to make it an urgent and important problem. And so what the tool does is it builds out for me their jobs to be done. Now notice, I still haven't gotten any ideas, but let me ask you a question. If you follow this framework, do you think you're gonna get better business ideas or worse business ideas? You tell me in the comments below. And any takeaways you're getting, just put it in the comments below. And any questions you have so far, put it in the comments below. I'll probably answer it by the end of this episode, but just in case, put it in the comments below. Now, let's dig into the jobs to be done for this CFO. Number one, jobs to be done, number one. They have to report financials to the street. This is very true. This is probably job number one, especially at a public company. It puts it at a pain level of 5. It sounds very painful to me. The frequency is 5 and the impact score is 25, which is why it's at the top of the list. It then says forecast revenue accurately, manage investor expectations, monitor cash flow and burn, track key SaaS metrics, prepare for analyst calls and earnings, and stay compliant with regulations. That is the jobs to be done for my ideal customer. I know that this is the right market. And now I'm getting a deeper understanding of what a day in the life of this CFO looks like. Now that we know what their jobs to be done is, now we can say, hey, if we were to approach this CFO and we know there's clear pain, we know that they have an army of people reporting to them that are trying to solve these problems, but could I do it 10 times better than AI? Remember, I'm not trying to go replace their SaaS software. That's only a $200, $300 billion market. I'm trying to say, hey, you may have some people that are not the best at what they do. Those knowledge workers cost you a lot of money. And what if my AI tool could give you a better answer, could help you do your job better, or be a double check to what your team is doing? Would you be interested in that? Would you be interested in doing a pilot for that before your next quarterly earnings call? You tell me, would you say yes to that? I would say yes to that. Now, the moment that you've all been waiting for. Confetti, let's unveil it. Let's go through the 10 ideas. This is what you're here for. The 10 AI business ideas that you can create and solve for this CFO. Now, this is what my Unstoppable Ideas Generation tool came up with based on this process. Now remember, all the research, the definition of the ICP, the jobs to be done, and the ideas are all done by this tool. And you can use this tool to plug in any market that you have proximity to. Remember, you really want to be going after markets with people that you know. That way you can actually stress test all of this. By the way, if you want to grab a copy of that checklist, just put in the comments below, give me the checklist, and you'll also get access to this really cool custom GPT that I built that helps me do all of this. Now, let's go through the actual ideas. The first idea, drum roll please, is an AI SEC reporting assistant. Now, the jobs to be done solved is report financials. and why it's a top 10 pick. Now, a little backstory. What the tool does is it generates 25 ideas, and then I'd have the LLM go through it and pick the top 10 and explain why it's a top 10 to me based on its research. So it's super powerful that way. So the reason it's a top 10 is there's massive pain. There's high visibility every quarter, and there's a clear 10x over Workiva, which is an existing tool that they may be using, along with an entire team that is helping that CFO prepare for these earnings calls, for these quarterly calls. So what you can do is actually build a tool that takes in the same data that that team is looking at, those knowledge workers, and you can go to the CFO and say, hey, I analyzed every single quarterly filing. I looked at every single transcript. I looked at the questions they asked. I looked at the analysts, and based on that, and I actually went ahead and prepared an entire report to help you prepare for the upcoming call. Now that could be solving a very urgent and important problem. And guess what? Even though he has the team, he's not sure that he's got the best team. He's not sure that he's looked at it from all different angles. So this reporting tool, this reporting assistant, could be very, very powerful for the CFO. Idea number 2 is Rev Predictor Pro. The jobs to be done is to actually forecast revenue. In order to forecast revenue, you actually have to look at and take in as much data as possible. You have to look at a whole bunch of fragmented systems like CRM, ERP, billing, and you can actually then figure out what the forecast is going to be. And by the way, even outside of the public organization, the CFO organization, there are analysts trying to do the same thing. Well, guess what? AI is actually very, very effective at consuming large amounts of data. AI is very effective at looking at the data of comps, other public companies that are in the same space. Could you actually create a tool that creates a better forecast than the army of knowledge workers that exist in that organization? My guess is probably yes, because you can make sure you don't miss a beat. You can look at data going back 10 years, 15 years. You can actually look at comps, and you can start to create a point of view on what the forecast is going to be. Idea number 3, metric audit. Now, these are SaaS companies I'm targeting. They're traditional SaaS companies. So there's SaaS metrics, and SaaS metrics are super important. Now, CFOs need clean audited KPIs, especially for investors to look at, because those investors make decisions on whether they're going to buy or sell based on those metrics. And guess what? If you screwed up the metrics the following quarter, you actually have to issue another report saying, hey, we screwed up. And all of a sudden, what are you going to do? You're going to probably sell because your trust in the organization goes down, unless the metrics went way better, but who knows? Well, in this case, you can build an AI tool that actually looks at their metrics and helps you figure out, hey, I know your team is saying this, but here's what we found. And that could be really, really powerful. All right, idea number 4, you could do an earnings call prep assistant. I love this one because there are a billion meeting note takers that analyze and send the summaries. However, you can go super niche on that. You can look at the recordings and the transcripts of the past 50 investor calls or quarterly calls and earnings calls. And you can analyze that, and you can start to understand, hey, I'm seeing some trends on what they're gonna ask you. I'm seeing some trends on what they're asking other companies. So here's how I'm gonna help you prepare. And you can actually take a different point of view than their team and actually prepare them. And guess what? Your tool nails the one question that was gonna stump the CFO, and it nails it. Do you think they're gonna keep paying you? Do you think they're gonna pay you more? Do you think they're gonna fire the labor market? Who knows? We'll see. But that's why I really liked this idea. Idea number 5, investor metrics deck builder. Again, it ties into metrics and financials. So in this case, you can actually go in and create their investor deck. Hundreds of hours go into the deck creation. And whether it's a board deck or an investor deck, a lot of time goes into it. And by the way, there's always mistakes in these decks. So if you had AI that can really start to understand what makes for effective decks and effective communication and how to pitch the story and how to pitch the metrics, then you can actually offer a different point of view. And that's why this is powerful. Now, one of the things that I really liked between idea number 4 and idea number 5 is you can actually compound these two. When you start to get all the data across the organization, you can actually train your AI to really develop a point of view in pattern matching. You can take a unique point of view on how to think about how this company is going to be evaluated by the market. And the more data you get, the more of a point of view you can create, which can be super powerful. Idea number 6, the what if simulator. This is where you can start to think about how can you actually create scenario planning without the FP&A bottlenecks. Bottlenecks is a key word. So often, these CFOs are waiting around for their team to actually come to them with the answers. But AI can give them instant answers. It can give them answers before their team ever gets to them, which is super powerful because then your tool can give them the insights and then they can look at what the knowledge workers did and that CFO and your customer can compare. And they can get to really quick understanding of, hey, are we missing stuff? Do I have the best people? Or is this AI better? And that's when it gets really, really fun. All right, number 7, I really like this one. And I really liked it because I got really curious. I really like the public markets because these companies are public and there's so much data on them. Maybe you don't even sell to the CFO. Maybe you actually sell to the hedge funds or the public equities investors. And you say, hey, we're gonna track very specific SaaS metrics across all these SaaS companies that you like investing in. And we're gonna do peer benchmarking. And it's automatic. And it's gonna help you understand how these public mid-cap SaaS companies stack rank amongst each other in terms of actual metrics. And not only that, we're gonna start predicting where these metrics are going, and we're gonna create our own benchmark index of which companies are gonna win and which companies are about to get disrupted. And imagine how much you could charge for that, because one successful short trade or one successful long trade could make so much money for these investors. This insight could be incredibly powerful. Heck, you could even use that insight to invest by yourself. By the way, this is not investment advice or a strategy advice for investing. Figure that out on yourself. That's not what this channel is for. Number 8, the narrative generator for IR. The thing is, there's so much numbers and everyone is trying to create their own narrative, even the analysts. And so what the CFO and the CEO and the leadership team is really trying to do is explain the numbers, their interpretation of the numbers. That's the whole point of these calls. The investors can look at the numbers themselves and they will, but they really want to understand, well, how does the leadership team think about these numbers? Which means that they have to create an entire narrative around these numbers. Well, what if AI could create that narrative? What if you could look at the best performing stocks? Or the stocks that went up even though that they shouldn't have based on their metrics. Well, the alpha there was the narrative. They explained the numbers, even if it was bad news, in a way where the market was like, oh my God, that's genius. We're gonna go long on this stock. And what if that AI could start to generate the narrative for the CFO? That could be really powerful. Number 9, renewal radar. This one was a little weird, but it's number 9 for a reason. This is around the forecasting of revenue jobs to be done. You could look at expansion and churn modeling, and you could look at, well, where's the ARR gonna be? Everyone's trying to figure out where this company is going because it's all about the future value of the company and the current stock price. Well, what if you could actually look at the most predictive indicator and say, hey, where is churn really gonna go? Especially with AI. What are the startups that are gonna be disrupting this public mid-cap company because they're taking an AI first approach, and what's that gonna do for churn? These are all kind of interesting approaches you can take to give them a different point of view. Now remember, the job here is actually not to replace the humans right now, the knowledge workers. It will happen eventually. The job here is to just be a little bit better, or give a double check, or give a safety check, or find the blind spots. That's what you're really selling with these ideas. And over time, it's gonna get so good, they're gonna say, well, maybe we don't need all these people. Maybe we just need 2 people operating the AI, and they work off of that. And that's the big trend that's happening, which is why that huge market we're going after is going to get disrupted. And then lastly, the ARR waterfall builder. This is number 10, probably my least favorite. And I know like the trick here would be to give you the best one in the end, but I give you the best ones in the beginning and then it kind of declined from there, but it's still pretty cool. There were other terrible ideas. The ARR waterfall builder ties to their track SaaS metrics, and it can auto-generate clean visuals for ARR, fast to build, high value. Could be cool. Could be an entire person's job to get that right, and you can actually help them. It's still number 10, which means it's not the most important, whereas you compare to the top one, the actual SEC reporting assistant, which is like the most important boss that public company CFOs have. So you can kind of pick which one is gonna be the one that resonates with you the most, but it is stack ranked based on urgent and important and frequency of the jobs to be done. All right. Those are the 10 ideas I had for you, but let's recap the whole thing. What makes for a great idea? Number 1, you want to go after the right market. Number 2, you want to actually build a 10x differentiated product. It's more possible today than ever before. And remember, you're not disrupting the existing SaaS companies. You're actually disrupting the knowledge workers that do this job. And it's a much bigger industry. And lastly, you need a proper go-to-market. Now, once you are actually diving into the idea, you want to figure out what makes for a great market. Well, they need to have an urgent and important problem. They need to actually have budget, and they need to be early adopters. Because of that, I chose my target market for this video, CFOs at mid-cap public companies running a traditional SaaS business that's honestly also going to get disrupted. So based on that, my tool, the Unstoppable Idea Generation tool, built out the ICP, and then it figured out, well, what is the job of this public market CFO, and ranked it based on frequency and pain level, and then generated 25 ideas, and then looked at it and said, here are the 10 best ones I got, and actually created these ideas for me. Firstly, I'm super pumped for you. I hope you run with one of these ideas. Secondly, maybe you don't love one of these ideas, but now you know the framework on how to actually generate great business ideas, on how to actually look at it from a first principles basis. By the way, if you're at that stage where you want to be generating the right idea, make sure you grab a copy of my AI business checklist. The AI business checklist lists out each of these principles that I covered in this video, gives you the questions to ask yourself, and also includes a special link to my idea generation GPT. It's my custom trained GPT that follows this framework for generating great ideas for your ideal market. Just comment below, give me the checklist, and I'll give you the link to it. Or you can actually go into the description below and I'll include a link to that as well. Also, if you like this video, make sure you smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Also, I love comments. I love hearing from you guys. So comment below with your biggest takeaway, your biggest aha moment in this entire episode. As a next step, once you start to pick one of these ideas, you're gonna wanna validate it because ChatGPT, as great as it is not the real world. So you need to actually go validate it. So as a next step, watch this video. Inside of this video, I teach you my 3-step framework for validating business ideas, AI ideas and SaaS ideas, so that you don't waste months building the wrong product. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the comments below, inside of the checklist, or in the next episode. Take care, everybody.